Picture this. You are part of a group of 23 people in the middle of an unusually long dry season. The antelope your best hunters brought down 3 days ago is almost gone. Then, someone notices something. One of the hunters has been eating more than his share. Not obviously, not in front of everyone, but at night, when he thinks no one is watching, he goes back to where the meat is stored and takes a little more. Someone notices. And here is the part that should unsettle you. 23 people do not reach for weapons. Nobody strikes him. What happens instead is quieter and far more devastating. People stop meeting his eyes. Conversations go silent when he sits down near them. When the group moves camp 2 days later, he ends up walking at the edge instead of the center. Nobody hands him water first anymore. He has not been touched, and yet something in his body has already begun to understand that this might be the beginning of the end of him. I want to spend the next few minutes inside that moment because I think it's one of the strangest and most important discoveries about early human behavior. We imagine prehistoric justice as violent. Clubs, spears, blood. But the record tells a different story. The first punishment humans ever developed for breaking the rules of the group wasn't violence at all. It was exclusion. To understand why, we need to understand what sharing actually meant. Because it wasn't generosity, it was infrastructure. Anthropologists studying groups like the Hadza of Tanzania and the hoansi of the Kalahari have documented something that looks almost radical. When a hunter kills a large animal, he doesn't get to decide who eats it or even claim the biggest share. The meat is distributed by strict, ritualized rules, sometimes based on who owns the arrow that made the kill, not who fired it. This looks bizarre from a modern individualist point of view, but the logic becomes obvious once you understand the environment. Hunting large game is inconsistent. A skilled hunter might succeed today and fail for 2 weeks straight. If meat belonged only to whoever caught it, everyone would eventually starve during their own unlucky streak. If it belongs to the group instead, moving through a web of obligation, the group survives the bad weeks together. This is risk management, built into the social structure itself. Anthropologists call this demand sharing. It isn't optional generosity, it's an enforceable social contract. And every enforceable contract needs consequences for the people who break it. So what happened when someone didn't share? The punishment had to solve a specific problem. You cannot simply kill someone for hoarding meat. In a group of 20 or 30 people, every person is a unit of labor, a source of knowledge, a caretaker. Losing a member is expensive. Violence also risks retaliation, which could fracture the entire structure. Early humans needed a punishment severe enough to deter cheating, but survivable enough that the group didn't tear itself apart enforcing it. Exclusion solved this perfectly. A human, alone, at night on the African savanna 60,000 years ago, with no fire tended by someone else, no lookout while they sleep, is one of the most vulnerable large mammals on the continent. Predators that would hesitate near a group of sleeping humans near a fire would not hesitate to approach one person alone in the dark. Group membership wasn't a social preference, it was a life support system. So exclusion didn't need to be a formal decision. It happened through 1,000 small withdrawals, still observed in foraging societies today. Reduced eye contact, silence when the person speaks, being left out of small errands and small kindnesses that keep a person woven into the group, being served last, not included when others get up to go somewhere together. Individually, none of these look like punishment. Together, they are unmistakable. And the person experiencing them understands exactly what's happening, because the same mechanism that made cooperation feel good is now working in reverse. Modern research offers a clue about why this works so well. Neuroimaging studies have shown that social exclusion activates brain regions associated with physical pain, the same regions that light up during actual injury. This is very likely an evolved feature. A species that depends on group membership for survival benefits enormously from a brain that treats rejection as a genuine emergency, because for most of our history, it was one. The pain of being excluded was never metaphorical. Your ancestors' brains built it from the same circuitry as a wound, because exclusion frequently led to a wound, or worse. And this is where the punishment reveals its real genius. Unlike violence, exclusion is reversible. A person frozen out of the group's warmth can work their way back in. They can share generously for a while, go out of their way to help, visibly correct the behavior that got them excluded. Slowly, the eye contact returns. Violence cannot do this. You cannot uninjure someone back into the group. But exclusion can be lifted the moment the group decides the debt has been repaid. This gave early societies something extraordinarily valuable: a punishment with an off-ramp. There's something else worth noticing, something that separates this from anything else in the animal kingdom. Other social animals punish rule breakers too. Chimpanzees attack group members who steal food. Wolves may exclude an aggressive individual from a hunt. But what humans developed runs almost entirely on shared understanding rather than direct force. Every member has to silently agree on what happened, silently agree on the response, and coordinate it without a single spoken instruction. No one holds a meeting, it simply happens, in near-perfect unison, because every mind is running the same calculation about fairness and reaching the same conclusion at nearly the same time. That is a distributed social computation, carried out by dozens of separate minds, none of which needed to speak the plan aloud. This is likely one of the oldest roots of what we now call morality. Not a commandment handed down, a felt, shared sense of fairness that emerged because groups who developed one outcompeted groups who didn't. And this pattern didn't disappear when we built cities and courtrooms. It just changed shape. Watch what happens when a colleague is discovered taking credit for someone else's work. Watch a friend group when someone never reciprocates, always borrowing, never returning. The punishment looks remarkably similar to the one your ancestors would recognize instantly. Fewer messages, slower replies, quieter exclusion from plans that used to include you automatically. Nobody announces it. You have almost certainly felt this from both sides. The disorienting cold of realizing a group has quietly closed ranks around you. And somewhere, a moment where you were part of the group doing the closing. That instinct is not petty politics. It is one of the oldest tools our species ever built, engineered by tens of thousands of years of trial and error to be just severe enough to change behavior and just merciful enough to let people come back. So the next time you feel that chill of being quietly frozen out, it might be worth asking where that instinct came from. It started around a fire, tens of thousands of years ago, when a group of people who depended on each other discovered something profound: that the most effective way to hold a group together was not the threat of force. It was the threat of being left alone.